Hey folks, so we're going to begin our next demonstration as gesture drawings. These are super fast drawings. We'll do quite a few of them, totally shifting gears from what we had done previously with our developing our eye-hand coordination. So it should be kind of fun to loosen up, try out some materials, and see how it goes. Here I have my materials I'm going to work with. I have sheets of newsprint. I have torn them out of my sketchbook, which is important. We're going to work again directly straight on the hard board. I have Conte. If you haven't used that before, it's kind of like a colored charcoal. And then I have compressed charcoal. That's important. It is different than vine charcoal. Compressed charcoal is going to give you like a really nice, soft, rich black. Extra soft, as you can see there. I have my set of paintbrushes. I'm choosing the largest one, or I think there's two that are pretty much the same size as large. So I'm going to use one of those, and then I have my ink. So this is just basically a drawing ink, and that should be pretty much what I need, along with a Sharpie or a marker of some sort, whatever you have handy. And there's so many kind of figure drawing, life drawing resources online. We're going to use one of our online models to help us do our poses and make them interesting. Okay, so I've got my first video queued up that I want to work with. I've got sheets of paper here, and I've labeled kind of what I'm going to be doing for each one. You can decide if you want to do that ahead of time. It's actually pretty helpful. So I'm going to take the other sheets that I'm not using, put them aside. It's best to work one sheet at a time so that you don't have any bleed through or anything like that. These are my various materials, but I'm going to start just with charcoal on this one. This is called a line gesture, and we're going to work on it for 1 minute with your charcoal. So remember, you're using the whole space of the drawing page and drawing through the body. So try to map out basically the spine, straight down to the feet, and then figure out exactly, where the weight of the figure is held. With our lovely music in the background, huh? Okay, so you can see how I'm not focusing on necessarily individual features. If I make a mistake, that's totally okay as well. I'm just making sure that I'm using my whole arm movement, not just my wrist movement, and getting down that entire figure in space. The first one might not be perfect because you're just kind of warming up, right? But not bad. Get a sense of where that weight is placed so that it looks like that person is really in that pose, where the joints kind of are roughly. And there you have it. Time's up. There's that one. This one is Conte, and just gonna choose, the brown or the red. I kind of like the red Conte personally. And I've got this pose set up, and we'll get started. So draw through the body, and just find out, very quickly where the sort of general ideas of the weight is being placed. So I'm not drawing outlines, and I'm not scribbling. Everything I'm doing is describing that form. I'm using my entire arm as I draw, and I'm standing up, making sure that I'm actively working. Sitting down is not going to work for this. You're not going to have the same kind of energy behind your drawing. So make sure that you can find a space you can stand up. Even though you're working at your computer here, this is a much more involved sort of drawing where you're using your whole arm and finding out the weight of the figure and where it's placed. And the joints, drawing through the forms. Get a sense of that pose. Okay, time's up on that one. There you have it, and we'll move on to the next, which is going to be an ink wash line. So, as she's switching poses, I'm ready to go. So it's going to take a little bit of getting used to. You dip into that ink there, and this is going to be a line gesture. And Again, you'll draw through the body, find where the weight is placed. So I've got this sort of nice arm movement there. Figure out where the head is, shoulders, and other kinds of joints. You have some mass of the torso there, and figure out, you know, where those legs are, which is a little bit more complicated in this pose. One leg bending out, and the other leg bent and reaching with that arm. So I'm dipping in the ink, I'm dipping in the water, and again keeping it this line and getting a sense of that pose and the weight of the figure with active energy always here. Almost out of time. Find some joints, and that's it. I'm going to put my ink wash away, and now we'll move on to a little bit different type of gesture drawing, where we're going to do what's called a mass gesture. So I did take my charcoal and break it in half because I'm going to use kind of the side of the charcoal for this piece. So remember that, you know, with these drawings, we're never scribbling. We're always, you know, describing what we're seeing with the pose. And so we'll see with the figure, as the pose occurs, that we want to sort out those sort of larger weights of the forms. Okay, so I'm using the side of the charcoal this time. It's going to have a lot more sort of blackness to it because I'm sorting out her pose with the side of my charcoal instead. So it shouldn't just be like a total black mess. Should still get a sense of, you know, what's happening with that pose. It'll just have a little bit of a different look and feel. Get that arm going back there. And you can also kind of stick your fingers in there, rub it around a bit. That's very helpful too. So you can kind of really see where that one leg is, which is complicated in this pose in particular, versus the other underneath. And then the head. So yeah, I like to stick my fingers in. I get full of a mess of charcoal, and there's that one. With this one, we're going to switch to the ink wash again, which is really great for doing a mass gesture. You can do like nice broad strokes with your ink. And just getting in her pose, and we have 1 minute once again. And remember, you're drawing large using your whole arm and using the entire space of the drawing paper. And all of the lines and strokes that you create are describing that form, and they're not just random marks for no reason. So I'm drawing through the form, mapping out, you know, where the weight of the pose is going to sit. I'm gonna have to dip into the water a little bit more. And when you dip into the water, you get a different kind of gray tone, which is nice. You can get a little bit of fun value, pull up the ink wash as well, and then maybe use some of the darker marks to suggest further weight with the figure in different spots. All right, time went by fast. So the next poses that we do are going to be a little bit longer. They'll be 2 minutes. With this next one, we're going to do both mass and line gesture in one drawing. Okay, so I think she's ready. So like I mentioned, use your full arm and the full space of the newsprint that you have. So you can draw large, fill out that space, I'm starting with a mass gesture just to give a sense of like where the body's gonna be there. Because then I know I can kind of like stick my fingers in, move things around a little bit, and then fill out that form more fully with my line gesture, right? But remember, you're still drawing through the figure, you're not drawing outlines. So I don't expect these drawings to be perfect. I want to see your energy behind it and a sense of the body movement that you see there with the figure. Some of these poses are pretty complicated, I gotta say, which is good, right? No just standing there doing nothing, right? So I'm continuing to draw through the figure there, trying to figure out this particular pose. Maybe find the joints a little bit more clearly. There's the knee. And I gotta find the shoulders there. This one arm kind of goes back sort of strangely for me here. And then the knee comes down here. I think I got it sort of here. All right, time's up. The next one, we will use the charcoal mass and line, but then we'll also add in some white Contes as maybe kind of like a little bit more value, a little bit of sense of an erasure, maybe different type of mark you can make. So I'm going to start with the charcoal as she's getting ready there. Okay, this one's nice, extended. All right, so again, draw through the form. Like one thing I do is I sometimes say, oh, if this pose were to be described in one line, what would it be? And that's going to be the first line that I put down on my paper. And then I'm going to start to fill out where this sort of larger weights are, you know, the head, shoulder, etc., torso. I'm working on the side, and then again I can stick my finger in there a bit more, move it around, and again remember I'm always standing up, keeping my energy strong as I'm making these. That's super important. That's the exciting thing about the start of all drawings, and particularly like if you look at some of those old master drawings, they all have this sort of energetic start to them, and then they go into more refined details. So this is really the bare bones of starting to get to doing more developed drawings. So it's good to get a handle on this process. And again, we're still working on eye-hand coordination because we're moving quickly. We have to keep looking up at the figure very, very often, more so than looking down at our paper, in order to get an full understanding of what we're seeing here. So now I can use the white and go in and, you know, maybe suggest some sense of light and dark a little bit more across the legs. Stick my fingers back in again and have a little bit more fun with it. So again, it's not an outline, as you see. You know, I'm drawing through that form, getting a full sense of the body and that movement. Different sockets and joints. Okay, time's up on that one. See my lovely hands, so much fun. My dad was a mechanic, and I used to joke with him how I looked like him when I came home from work, except I was drawing. Okay, so getting ready for this next one. Okay, so 2 minutes. Again, draw across the entire space of that drawing page. Get that pose in. Quickly, you know, 2 minutes goes by really quite fast. And you want a full sense of that pose before you finish. Okay, so mass and line. So I did some masses and I can start to define it with a little bit more line. Find where the waist is, some of those joints are. And the bend of the knees and the legs. And again, with this, you can also stick your fingers in and push the Conte around a little bit. We're not using erasers, so these aren't going to be perfect, but they will have a really great sense of the energetic movement that you're putting into this. All right, time's up. Put that piece aside. So again, 2 minutes, mass, line, Conte, and white. Whoa, that's a tough pose too. She's doing great. Okay. So shoulders, arms, sense of the head, and then torso down to the leg, the foot, and that crazy bend of the knee, balancing with the elbow. Think about how that might feel if you were doing that pose and where the tension would be in your body, and that helps you to get an indication of how best to draw it. Like, think about, focusing more condensed marks in those areas of tension or imagined tension. So mass, line, stick your fingers in, swirl it around. And this one's nice because then I can sort of define it a little bit further with the white here. Since this pose is very complicated. And there you have it. Okay. Next up, we're going to try something a little bit different. So now I'm working with my Sharpie, and I'm going to do a scribble line gesture. This is the only time I'm going to ever tell you to scribble. It's a different type of gesture drawing. This will be 2 minutes long, and you just kind of fill out the form of the body by scribbling through that form. Okay, we're getting ready to go. And, same sort of principles of like drawing across the entire sheet of the paper, but you're using a little bit more of like a meandering line to fill out forms and stuff. I'm using more lines in areas where there's more mass and weight of the figure, and fewer where there's more extension, right? So maybe this will free you up to just have some fun with making some marks. Again, fill out the entire space of the drawing page as much as possible. That's what I'm going to be looking for, and get a sense of the energy of the pose of the figure. So if they're having some energy expressed, then you should too. Don't sit down, stand up. Use your whole arm movement when you make these drawings. Really show us where that energy of yours is. That's what makes a really great drawing, is having that sense of expression and energy behind it. Kind kind of Giacometti style, if y'all know him. I'll have to show you more of his work. And time is almost up, but it's looking good. Hopefully you're happy with the results of your drawings here. A little bit different than maybe you've done before. And time is up. Ta-da! So with this one, we're going to work with charcoal. And since it's a stain, maybe you want to use the eraser a little bit so you can get a bit more sense of detail. So I'm all set up and ready to go. Now we get to do 5 minutes. Charcoal, eraser. And now with this kind of drawing, it is still a gesture, but you're going to have the chance to fill out more of the forms that maybe you've done in the past. Get a little bit more, detail in this one. So get started, time yourself. I might have to speed up my time in my video, of course, but if you're following along with your YouTube, your demo video with your model, they should have it timed for you so that you keep track of doing that full 5 minutes. So I'm keeping it the same kind of thing. The same flow of the gesture, drawing through the forms. I'm standing up, keeping my energy up, and getting a sense of the body that way. And as I proceed, I will see how it goes and what other kind of sense of forms that I can get in here in 5 minutes instead of 2. No outlines, no stick figures. I'm going to keep reminding you of that. And what I mean by no only outlines, so there should be always mass and line going straight through the form as well as defining the outer areas. So when you do yours, you should be able to find other models in different videos so that you're not just replicating what I'm doing here, but doing something different and trying out a different way of doing it with different poses. Your drawing tool is actually, or your eraser can be a great drawing tool as well. So time's up, and there you have it. Well, that's all we're doing with the figure for right now. So you can also do a gesture drawing with the still life. And so I've set up these objects that you can see here. This is my drawing paper. I want to work with 1 minute and a mass and line gesture. So you just treat the objects the same way that you would treat a person. Try to get some urgency and energy behind there. You don't have much time, so you want to get every object down. If you run out of time, then you need to try it again, because it should be fairly easy for you to get the full still life in within that 1 minute. It helped me a little bit to tape down my paper. All right, and my time is up. So this next drawing that I'm going to do is called a sustained gesture drawing. The reason it's sustained is because you're able to work for a little bit longer period of time on your drawing. And so you'll be able to get that energy behind there, but then also add, maybe a few more, details than you were able to add before. So I'm going to work with black and white Conte, and for 5 minutes draw this still life and put some good energy behind it, like I've done before. Every object should really be in there within that first minute, no matter what kind of drawing that you're doing. So this is really, the basis of all drawings that you make. And so you really should get used to getting your energy up and getting some of that into that drawing in the very beginning. And that's what makes those objects really feel alive and like they're real and there, that we can touch them, that you're seeing them in person. So each individual object, I actually kind of give them a spine. Gesture drawing is about drawing through the form and not drawing outlines. So it's really important that you give it, that sense of mass and value. So I just kind of broke this one piece of Conte in half because it just works a little bit better for me to be able to use the side of it. You also, take a look at the relationship between objects in space. This one's obviously higher than that one. The blender hits on the other blender in a different way or at a certain point, and then I'm able to fill out a little bit of value there, work on the bowl and the salt and pepper shaker. So as I mentioned, this is pretty much the way that I would start any drawing, with this kind of energy and without having this perfection, because that really fuels what comes afterwards. And I'll talk to you more about that as we continue. So I've got a sense of volume. Then I can also, work around a little bit with the white. Maybe use the white almost like an eraser and fill out some, additional elements. Gesture, rhythm, flow, motion, action. These are all words that are used interchangeably, and they basically mean the same thing. They all refer to the movement between things. It's not the contour or the form or the tone. It's the movement that connects the contours, the forms, and the tones. And also the weight that is distributed throughout. So gesture is the start of every drawing that you do. Remember that the added development of detail is nothing without gesture. So you can see I'm working pretty aggressively with a lot of energy. And that's how a gesture drawing should always be, that urgency. I've only got 30 seconds left. What else can I get in there? And the more you practice it, the faster you'll be with your drawing. You'll get the hang of responding to what you see quickly, not letting your intellectual brain interfere too much with overthinking things, and getting every element in there that you want to get. Maybe even a little bit of shadow. And then my time's up. So basically gesture is everything around us. It's an approach to drawing that you can use to draw anything. Hey, so check this out. Look at all these drawings I've made. They're all around me in a very short amount of time. I'm pretty happy with all the energy that's being expressed here, and I hope you like yours too. Thanks for joining me, and I'll catch you on the next demo.